You wake up to silence. No engines, no heaters, no walls, only cold. The kind of cold that burns your skin before the sun even rises. The kind that turns breath into clouds and makes every step feel expensive. Could you survive a winter like that? For most of human history, your ancestors had no central heating, no insulated houses, no supermarkets, and no weather forecasts. Yet they survived some of the harshest winters the planet has ever produced. Not for a few years, for thousands of generations. During the last ice age, enormous ice sheets covered much of the Northern Hemisphere. Temperatures in some regions were dramatically colder than they are today. Entire landscapes looked unfamiliar. Forests retreated, grasslands expanded, food became harder to find. Why didn't humans simply disappear? The answer is surprisingly complicated. Your ancestors did not survive because they were stronger than the cold. They survived because they became masters of adaptation. One clue comes from archaeological discoveries across Eurasia. Sites associated with Ice Age humans reveal evidence of sophisticated behavior long before modern technology existed. Instead of passively enduring winter, people actively engineered solutions. Consider clothing. Today, putting on a coat takes seconds. For Ice Age humans, clothing could mean the difference between life and death. Archaeologists have discovered bone needles dating back tens of thousands of years. These were not simple decorations, they were tools used to stitch animal hides together. A loose hide draped over the shoulders offers some protection. A fitted garment traps warm air close to the body. That difference can save a life. Research led by anthropologist Gilligan has suggested that tailored clothing may have been a crucial innovation that allowed humans to expand into colder environments. In plain English, people survived winter because they learned how to make better clothes. Simple idea, massive consequence. Then there was shelter. Many people imagine ancient humans constantly wandering through snowstorms. The reality was often more strategic. Groups selected locations carefully. Some lived in caves. Others built structures using wood, animal hides, and even mammoth bones. At sites in modern-day Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered circular dwellings constructed partly from mammoth remains. These structures provided protection from wind and helped preserve precious body heat. Imagine the effort required. Hunting enormous animals was difficult enough. Turning their remains into homes required planning, cooperation, and knowledge passed between generations. Winter survival was rarely an individual challenge. It was a group project. This idea appears again and again throughout the archaeological record. Humans are not the fastest animals, they are not the strongest, yet they excel at something unusual. They share information. Anthropologist James Sussman has written extensively about hunter-gatherer societies and the importance of cooperation. Knowledge could be just as valuable as food. Which valley remained sheltered from harsh winds? Which animals migrated during winter? Which plants could still be found beneath snow? Information spread through families and communities. One mistake could be fatal. One lesson could save dozens of lives. Now imagine a winter day roughly 20,000 years ago. The air is bitterly cold. Snow crunches beneath your feet. Smoke drifts upward from a fire that has been carefully maintained through the night. Around you, people prepare for another difficult day. Nobody knows exactly what the weather will bring. Nobody knows whether hunting will succeed, yet everyone understands their role. Some repair clothing, some gather fuel, some watch children, others prepare for a hunt. Survival begins long before anyone steps into the snow. Fire sits at the center of everything. Without fire, many cold environments would have been nearly impossible to inhabit. Fire provides warmth. It cooks food. It dries wet clothing. It extends waking hours after sunset. It creates a social space where knowledge can be shared. Evidence for controlled fire stretches back hundreds of thousands of years. Sites studied by researchers such as Richard Wrangham have fueled discussions about how cooking transformed human life. Cooked food delivers energy more efficiently. More available energy helps support larger brains and more complex behavior. A warm meal during winter is not merely comforting, it is biology. Calories become heat. Heat becomes survival. Food itself posed one of the greatest challenges of Ice Age winters. Plants often became scarce. Hunting grew more important. Yet hunting in cold environments demanded extraordinary skill. Animals moved, weather changed, opportunities vanished quickly. At locations such as Dolní Věstanice in the Czech Republic, archaeologists have found evidence of complex Upper Paleolithic communities. Upper Paleolithic simply means the later part of the Old Stone Age. These people were not randomly chasing animals across frozen landscapes. They understood migration routes, seasonal patterns, and animal behavior. Knowledge accumulated year after year, generation after generation. Winter rewarded preparation. This creates one of the biggest misconceptions about ancient humans. Many people assume life consisted of constant desperation. Certainly, hardship existed. Winters could be deadly. Starvation happened. Exposure killed people. But archaeological evidence also reveals planning, artistry, trade, and social life. Even during difficult climates, humans created art. Why would people paint animals on cave walls if survival consumed every waking moment? Sites like Chauvet Cave in France suggest something remarkable. Humans did more than endure. They built cultures. That fact changes how winter should be understood. The cold was not merely an enemy, it was an environment people learned to navigate. Another critical advantage involved social networks. Research by anthropologist Polly Wiesner among hunter-gatherer groups has demonstrated how relationships can function as survival systems. If one group experienced bad luck, allies could provide assistance. Resources moved through networks of trust. Think about what that means. A friendship could become food. A shared story could become shelter. A marriage alliance could become insurance against famine. Modern people often think of technology as machines. Ancient humans often relied on social technology. The system existed inside relationships. Winter also shaped the human body itself. Humans possess characteristics that help regulate temperature. Blood flow changes, metabolism responds, fat stores provide energy. Yet biology alone cannot explain survival in ice age conditions. Polar bears survive because they evolved for extreme cold. Humans survive because they adapt behavior. That distinction matters. If temperatures dropped suddenly, humans could invent new strategies. They could alter clothing, change hunting methods, relocate camps, improve shelters, share resources. Flexibility became a superpower. Archaeological evidence from places such as Blombos Cave in South Africa and numerous Eurasian sites reveals a species increasingly capable of symbolic thought and long-term planning. Symbolic thought sounds technical, but the idea is simple. Humans could imagine things that did not yet exist: a future shelter, a future hunt, a future winter. That ability allowed preparation before danger arrived. Perhaps the most surprising truth is that some Ice Age winters may have strengthened cooperation. Difficult conditions encouraged people to depend on one another. Children learned skills from elders. Experienced hunters taught younger generations. Stories preserved practical knowledge. A tale told beside a fire might sound like entertainment. It could actually be a survival manual. Remembering where game appeared during a harsh winter 50 years earlier could save lives decades later. Culture became a storage system for information, long before books, long before writing, long before the internet. Then agriculture arrived. Many people assume farming immediately improved life. Yet some researchers argue that the transition created new problems. Hunter-gatherers often relied on diverse food sources. Early farmers sometimes depended heavily on a few crops. If harvests failed, entire communities suffered. In some ways, ancient winter survival had always depended on flexibility. Agriculture sometimes reduced that flexibility. The story is more complicated than progress moving neatly forward. Human survival rarely follows a straight line. So what would happen if you suddenly found yourself in an Ice Age winter? Without modern knowledge, the situation would be terrifying. You might struggle to find shelter. You might waste precious energy. You might overlook signs that experienced hunter-gatherers would recognize instantly. Yet you also carry the legacy of those survivors. The brain reading these words exists because countless generations successfully navigated danger. Every adaptation, every lesson, every innovation accumulated across thousands of years. The fire, the clothing, the shelter, the cooperation, the storytelling, the planning. None of these appeared overnight. Together, they transformed a vulnerable primate into a species capable of living across deserts, forests, mountains, and frozen landscapes. When people imagine the deadliest winters on Earth, they often picture a battle between humans and nature. The archaeological record tells a different story. It shows creativity. It shows cooperation. It shows intelligence applied to impossible looking problems. Your ancestors did not conquer winter, they learned from it. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson. The challenges facing modern life are different from those faced during the Ice Age. Most people no longer worry about building mammoth-bone shelters or tracking herds through snow-covered plains. Yet, adaptation remains one of humanity's defining traits. When circumstances change, people change with them. When problems appear, people invent solutions. That pattern stretches back tens of thousands of years, all the way to fires glowing against frozen darkness. So the next time you step into a warm room during a cold winter evening, consider the chain of decisions that made that comfort possible. Consider the generations who survived without modern conveniences. Consider the knowledge carried through stories, tools, and traditions. You wake up to warmth. And that simple fact is part of a survival story that began long before history was ever written.